and they said, look, we just hit Jane Smith. Let's do a quick asset search. Jane Smith is worth $20 million. Oh, this is great. We know she has deep pockets and she can pay. So will the law firm take that on contingency? Yes, 100%. Why? Because they want to take your money. What is the defense against this? When you left your house today, did you lock your door? Did you lock the top one? Did you maybe set the alarm, right? Do you have a security service that patrols your neighborhood? You might have a fence. You might have dogs at your house. You might live in a castle on a hill with high walls and a moat. Each level is a successive level of protection. And it stops would-be thieves from trying to get your assets and get your money, right? And we'd all say that, look, you know, a house that has a couple locks on an alarm system and patrol, that's all great. But the one that has a pair of Dobermans in the front yard, that one's real safe, right? There are successive levels of protection. So let's take a look at how you protect your assets against people who try to take your assets. What you need to do is every asset belongs in its own structure, and these structures belong in a larger structure, and it forms a web. The first structure is this, write this down. Every property is in an in-state LLC. So every property that you own should be in its own LLC. If you own in Florida, it should be a Florida LLC. You can have a whole bunch of properties or businesses in one LLC. The problem is if somebody sues that LLC, they can get anything that's inside that box. So ideally, there's one asset per LLC. That's your base level. You should have an LLC for all of your personal assets as well. I'm guessing everybody has a personal checking account, right, or a trust account, something like this. Those assets are all attachable. Instead, leave a portion that's in a personal name, a couple $100,000, what happens to be, whatever your normal expenses are, but then have the rest of the brokerage assets in an LLC, giving you an extra layer of protection. So you're going to have the businesses, S Corps, C Corps, LLCs. You're going to have the properties and the assets, LLCs, right? Then you're going to have personal assets in its own LLC. All of these then are not owned directly by you or your living trust. These are now then owned by a holding company. That holding company should own all of your individual LLCs. That holding company should be in Nevada, Wyoming, Alaska, or South Dakota. My favorite is Wyoming. It's the cheapest, it's anonymous, it's super easy, it's fantastic. So all of your assets owned in their own LLCs. Those LLCs owned by a holdco. Okay? Now, what does the holdco do for you? The holdco says that if somebody successfully sues you, the worst that they can get against your holding company, if the judge observes state laws where the holding company lives, effectively. If the judge observes those laws, the most they can get out of that is what's called a charging order. A charging order says, you can't take my assets, but you can take distributions from the LLC. So let's say you have a dozen properties worth $25 million. And they are all owned in individual LLCs that owned by your holdco. And someone sues you. Well, if someone sues you and they're suing you on one property, they stop there. They can only stop at that one LLC level. If they have a larger claim against you, they can try to get all of these assets and they can try to go against your holdco. But even if they're successful, the most they can get, if they're observing state law, if the judge is observing state law, is a charging order. They can't take the asset, they can only take distributions. So you stop taking distributions off the assets, and they get nothing. Now, I live in California. We have very aggressive judges. Okay? Sometimes a judge can say, I don't care about your LLCs, I don't care about your holdcos, I'm going to freeze your assets, I'm going to take your money. And I can do whatever I want to do because I'm the judge. This does happen. It's a real risk. So what do you do next? You can have the in-state LLCs owned by a holdco, owned by yourself or your living trust. Keep in mind, a living trust is just a document that tells you what happens to your assets when you die. That's it. It avoids probate, and it's private. It does not go through the court system, which is the difference from a will. But if you own that individually at the top, they could still potentially penetrate that structure if you have a very active judge. Okay? So what do you do next? Then you could have that whole company owned by a Nevada Asset Protection Trust. That's a Domestic Asset Protection Trust, or a DAPT. That says that trust owns these assets, and again, it has its own charge order protection. So if the judge observes a bad law, they can no longer get those assets. Another route to go is an irrevocable trust. This is a trust that will own all of your other assets, or whatever assets you choose, that you don't own. It's a trust, let's say, for the benefit of your children, that your children own. Okay? You don't manage it, and you don't have any beneficial ownership of it. You're not the beneficiary of it. The Domestic Asset Protection Trust is, you are the beneficiary of that. But an irrevocable trust, that's entirely given to your kids, or whoever else you want to give it to. It is no longer your asset. Write this down. An irrevocable trust is the strongest domestic form of asset protection. Irrevocable trust. In addition, an irrevocable trust is outside of your estate. Every couple can pass on $30 million when you pass away. $30 million with no inheritance tax. Each person is $15 million. Two together is 30. Any dollar over that $30 million, you get like a $10,000 window. Anything past that is taxed at 40% flat tax. The worst tax in the United States, 40%. The only way, well, there's a number of ways around this, but the best way around this is by having these assets outside of your personal name in an irrevocable trust. It's no longer your asset. It grows entirely tax-free. Very commonly, you will place and see insurance policies in what's called an irrevocable life insurance trust. You take your insurance dollars, you put it into an irrevocable trust for the benefit of your kids, let's say. It's outside of your estate, so no inheritance tax, and no creditor can ever touch it. Ever. Now, there's more. What if you've done these things, but you're still concerned? Many physicians, many other people who, business owners that may be in a position of getting sued, get very concerned about this. Offshore is the next step. We talked about investor structures, now there's offshore.
Go to China, open the account there.
Yeah, not in China. Not in China, because China's laws will protect you.
Go to Vietnam.
Yeah. You want to go to a jurisdiction that has the strongest laws around the world. Singapore, Liechtenstein, Switzerland, Nevis, or my personal favorite, the Cook Islands. The Cook Islands currently has the strongest asset protection laws of any jurisdiction in the world. And what you would do is you form a Cook Islands Trust, which then owns a Cook Islands LLC, and that LLC holds accounts in Switzerland and Liechtenstein. This trust is run by a trustee. You're the beneficiary of this trust, but the trustee has control, not you. So if anyone ever sues you, the trustee says, I can't take any action because you're under court duress. And in addition, in Cook Islands Trust, you're not subject to U.S. law. So if someone successfully sues you in the United States, they send that lawsuit to the Cook Islands trustee and say, give me your money. The trustee takes that, crumbles it up, and throws it in the trash. He says, you gotta come sue us in the Cook Islands. After 2 years, that is the statute of limitations. After 2 years, they can't get the money. 2 years is what we call the fraudulent conveyance window. After 2 years, doesn't matter how the money got there, nobody can get it. By the way, no one has ever broken through the Cook Islands, ever. Russian oligarchs have been protected against the Russian government in the Cook Islands, and I know the trustees that have protected them there. So what happens then is you have an asset now that lives in Switzerland or Liechtenstein that is protected through the Cook Islands. In theory, if somebody actually got a judgment in the U.S. and then got a judgment in the Cook Islands within 2 years, good luck there, they still didn't have any money because they have to go collect in Switzerland or Liechtenstein, which have their own separate laws, which take another 3 to 5 years. So literally, you're talking about 7 years before anyone can even touch the money or even hope to touch the money. Now you start to understand what wealthy people do around the world. Does this make sense? Who here has heard of Shakira?
Shakira.
Right?
Yes.
Shakira.
Yep.
Shakira was in the news last couple of years. Did you hear about this? She was in the news for tax evasion. Okay? Shakira is a Colombian citizen. She was born in Barranquilla. But now she's also a citizen of Bermuda. Bermuda is a tax-free country.
Wow.
So, she's a Bermuda citizen paying 0 tax on her worldwide income, right? Problem was, is she had a Spanish boyfriend. And Spanish tax authorities added up all the time that she was spending in Spain according to her social media posts.
Wow.
And they said, Shakira, you're actually a de facto Spanish resident. Pay us your tax bill.
Wow.
And this is how we found out about her corporate structure, right?
Wow.
With Bermuda, with all of the other entities she had and how they worked. Ultimately, she had to pay them some tax money, right? So the idea is this: the wealthiest families in the world are already doing this. Their assets don't sit in their personal names. They don't just have a living trust. They have multiple stages in their entity diagrams and their entity structures. And we set all of this up for our clients. And your entity diagram can be very simple. It can be entity LLCs owned by a holdco, owned by a domestic asset protection trust, your living trust, or some revenue trust. It can get much more complex. You can put in 99-1 LLCs. You could have various management companies and ownership of those management companies. You could have family limited partnerships. You could have offshore structures. And not just through Switzerland, Liechtenstein, you could have them all over the world: Monaco, Singapore, Malta, etc. Set all of these up. But most people don't need them, right? What most people need is basic protection. So if someone does an asset search against your name, they're going to come up to a brick wall. And once they do discovery, they lead it toward discovery, they're going to find out you have this elaborate asset protection structure. And they may believe that they could be successful, but they know it's going to take a lot of work. Just like breaking into that house with the bottom lock, the top lock, the electric fence, and the Dobermans. You might be able to get in there, but it's going to take a lot of work. And what do they tell the plaintiff? They say, Mr. Plaintiff, we would love to take your case, but I'm sorry, we can't take this on contingency. We have to take this hourly, but we'd be more than happy. Our hourly rate is $850 to $1,600 per hour. And we expect resolution in 3 to 4 years.
Wow.
Right? Now, what happens to that lawsuit? It dies. This is what happens when you properly asset protect yourself. Now, done properly, you're not only going to protect yourself, but you will make sure that your assets pass on to the next generation exactly as you want them to pass. And done properly, minimize, if not eliminate, inheritance tax on those assets.
So you are saying that we have this LLC, this LLC, all insurances. You want to create a accounting manager and a management property.
So I do this often, which is, okay, Travis, I own everything in my personal right now, it's really easy, it's on my tax form and we're done, right? You know, now we're talking about multiple LLCs and holdcos and potentially trusts, et cetera. Each one's gonna have to have its own bank account, right? And annual reporting requirements potentially, et cetera, maybe some cost. The cost of an asset protection structure to set it up and to maintain it is absolutely marginal, it's minimal. Remember I told you in the beginning there's 3 levels of chess? There's business, there's legal, and there's political. Well, this is the legal field, where they find a way to take your money through the legal system. There is a cost to play there, but it's very, very minor. So what do the extra tax returns cost you per LLC? A couple $100, $1,000, something like this per entity? Not very much. I have seen judgments that entirely wipe out someone's net worth. Everything you have gone. If asset protection is not set up properly. So the cost of setting up structures and maintaining structures is a cost. And there is some upkeep, right? But weighed against the benefit, you're paying pennies for millions of dollars in protection. That makes sense? So it's always a personal judgment call of, what do I have? Is it worth protecting? Until if you're sitting in this room, chances are you probably need to have protection on those assets. Probably goes far beyond what you trust, which offers no protection. Goes far beyond your basic S corps and your C corps. You definitely want to have the multiple levels. You may or may not want to have your resident trust, domestic asset protection trust, offshores, 99-1s, family limited partnerships. But that depends on your specific situation, and we can take a look at that individually. So, asset protection. So we've covered 2 major areas so far, but the 5 that I cover is a family office. I covered 5 areas. The first is tax mitigation to 0. My objective is for my clients to be 0 tax every single year. Walk you through exactly how to do it, and just like the coach at the gym, to get you to truly do it. Secondly, asset protection, both domestic and offshore. Next is business advisory. Business advisory is actually 60% of my time. So the majority of my clients are business owners, overwhelming majority, or retired business owners. And I had 4 people that sold companies last year, and a number that are looking to sell this year. So I sit in with all of my clients on all of their deals, all of their deal negotiations. I sit in on investment review for everything they're taking a look at, all their opportunities, because I am the consigliere and the central point of contact at the top of the family office, right? So if you are looking at a business sale or business growth, 60% of my time is devoted into this: raising profits, cutting costs, increasing enterprise value, and keeping you out of really, really bad deals. I have a number of clients. I can tell you probably 95% of the ideas that I get from clients, I typically shoot down. And the reason is not because I'm a mean person, it's because I've seen over 30 years what bad deals look like. And if all you do is avoid bad deals, right, you're vastly ahead of the game. Okay? Liability protection, both business and personal. One client who was very large, he worked for a company, he was about a third of the business of this national company. When he left that company, about a third of the workforce came and worked for him. Of course, the old company sued. And when they sued, his legal bills were over $1 million a month for over a year and a half, for $18 million. Had he had a piece of protection in place, it probably would have cost about $100,000 per year. He could have mitigated the majority of that cost, which again goes to the cost benefit, right? If you take the right action when the sky is clear, it's inexpensive and will truly give you the protection you're looking for, okay? Which basically means that once we set your plan of buying assets, of maintaining your retirement lifestyle, of making sure you're not paying the IRS unreasonable amounts of money you should be paying them, we want to make sure that nothing derails you, nothing stops you. Somebody can't sue you, a family member, some other plaintiff, or that everything crumbles when you pass away, right? Liability protection. And lastly, succession planning. So remember, if you've been successful and you have assets, you're going to pass these assets on. Once your assets exceed $15 million per person, or $30 million per couple, the government's going to take 40% of all of that money. Right? This is why Zuckerberg has a massive foundation. This is why Bill Gates has a massive foundation. This is why Clinton has a massive foundation. Right? We help you set up nonprofits. We do all of the structure that's necessary. Okay? All right. With that, what I'd like to do is these are the 5 areas I cover as a personal CFO and as your family office. What I'm going to do is, as there's only so much that I can cover tonight in group setting, I'm going to pass these out. And I'm offering everyone a free consultation. In this consultation, I'll be able to take a look at your exact situation. My team will request all of your documents. So the time that we spend together is a relatively large group. You understand I do a lot of appointments. I have to make sure that our time is valuable. So we'll take a look at your exact situation to get us your information, and we'll give you exactly the answers to your questions that your current advisors will do.
The third country you mentioned before the Netherlands,
Just not a state.
What's your fee?
It all depends on the client.
That
Depends on the client and the flexibility.
percentage or flat rate?
Flat rate. Flat rate. I always work in 12-month increments. I'm not a transaction guy.
Not bad, brother.
So if the asset is like, we'll just say it's, 500,000 or 500, the fee's the same?
Has nothing to do with the assets.
They
Has
start.
nothing to do with the assets. If we maybe acquire, for instance, like some of those, right, and essentially we're as well. But don't worry, as long as you get to the point, we'll know exactly where you are, and I'll walk you through all of that. Yeah, as soon as you finish, you can pass those up. And just indicate on there what your preferred time of meeting is as well.
Is that all?
Say, Zoom. Are you all, I